There it goes. I see a live icon pop up. Not seeing me yet. It's all kind of black. There I am. I'm there. Yay. Oh, that's a subscribe heart. Okay. I never really paid attention that there's like this subscribe button on my live shows that automatically pops up.
I got a notification.
Yay! Yay! We're on. We're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, but I just froze.
Uh-oh.
My video did. No, it looks like it's working again.
Mine's still working.
But the Wi-Fi is fine.
Okay. Hey guys. Hi Susanna. Hi Emerald. Welcome. Welcome to the live show. TV Movies says hello. Hello, TV Movies. Adam says, hey, Siofra and Ian. Wonderful to see you all again. Hi, Adam. Ian apparently is having some difficulty with his keyboard.
I typed the whole thing,
and
the only thing it said on the line was hell.
Aaron Jones says hello. Hi, Aaron. Nice to see you guys. Jennifer S. says hello. Hi, Jennifer S. Gabriel Thera says hey. Or Therese. Violet says hi. Missed you guys. Hi, Violet. Haven't seen you in a bit. Welcome. It's a nice sunny day today. Isn't it awesome in Oregon?
Well, it is over here anyway.
Yes. Ian says hi, everyone. Apparently he fixed the weird typing issue.
Well, I started with hello and then typed like a whole thing and then it just said hell.
Computers. At least Mercury is no longer retrograde, and apparently at the moment nothing is retrograde, so I don't know what that means. Gabriella says, I tried to summon the Fae with honey, but it's so cold out here in Canada. Yeah, well, honey does get kind of stiff pretty quickly.
Oops.
Allison says hello. Hi, Allison. Yeah, I mean, you know, when you're working with the Fae, it's like setting yourself up a nice little space and so forth, and, you know, making a dedicated area outside is a good idea, and then waiting for it to warm up. The winter fairies have different jobs than spring and summer fairies, so, you know. And they're on their own timetable. They like, you know, bells and flowers and all sorts of, you know, colorful things. Stones, you can do little stone circles or all kinds of stuff. And then they decide. It's up to them. I've been seeing Ashley's tiger lately, just before her father ended up in the hospital. I just realized I hadn't told her that. I have to remember to tell her that. That may have been why. Maybe it was like a pre-warning kind of a thing. That something was up. But not always. Sometimes she just likes to come in and say hi because Ashley doesn't see her at the moment. And I can, so she likes to be seen. So, the crows in my neighborhood, one of them started cawing like me, which was really interesting because at first it sounded like it had a sore throat. And then I realized it was actually trying to mimic my call because I don't sound anything like a crow. And then the other day I went out and I was feeding them and I heard the crow calling, you know, cawing like me. And then another 5 or 6 crows did it too. So I've created a new crow sound in my neighborhood.
I bumped the microphone, so I hope I didn't make a big clunk sound.
Oh, I don't know. So, Allison says hello. I said hello. Jonathan says hello. Hi, Jonathan. Last of Her Kind says hello. Hi. Luna says hello. Hi. Everyone, hello.
Yay.
But it was really interesting to realize that I've been feeding the crows for, 4 years, 5 years, something like that. I can't remember exactly when I started. And that I've started to have an impact on their language. I was just like, Wow. That is so awesome. So who knows how long it will last, and or if it will last, and maybe it's only the young ones that are learning it, and maybe they'll teach their children the call, so if they hear someone who sounds like that, they'll know their family. Hey, Vanessa V. So we have two Vanessas. Hi, Vanessa V. Yeah, so that would be interesting. You just never know. Oh, and Ian was asking the other day what a group of bats were called, and I forgot to tell you. I found out there's three different names, but my favorite one, cauldron. It's a cauldron of bats, and I just thought, like, I love that. That is just awesome. It just seems so perfect for bats. So Teresa Lindsay says hello. Hi, Teresa. Emily Love says hi. Happy Sunday. Thank you. Very happy Sunday. Luna says crows are incredibly clever and cool, and yes, they are. And Ruth says, I think hello or hail. Hi all, without a space. That's what it is. I've put it together. God, language. So now we have all our highs out of the way. What do we want to talk about today? Yep, she says, oops. Hi all. Yep. I figured it out, though. I'm pretty on top of it. So yeah. We already have 26 people on. That's awesome. Yep. Joey says, hey, Siofra and Ian. Hi, everybody. Hi, Joey. Vanessa V says, yes, there are experiments where they teach crows to say hi and to cough. Oh, so crows can learn to say hi. I was wondering about that. Shay was asking me about that. I know that ravens can learn human speech fairly readily, but I wasn't sure if crows were interested or not. So
don't teach them to say nuts when they want nuts. Then they'll be flying around.
Oh my goodness!
People hear them saying nuts.
Well, this morning when I went out, because I went out earlier than usual, and I walked outside, and there was not a crow in sight. There was nobody. There were the red-winged blackbirds singing like crazy, so that was kind of fun to listen to. So I threw my peanuts out, and I started making my crow sound and looking, made another couple crow sounds and looked, and then all of a sudden they started flying in from all directions.
That's so cool when they do that.
Yes, it was just awesome. It's just like, they're like, she's here! The peanuts have arrived! So, yes. All right, so let's see. Luna has a question and Adam has a question. Start with Adam. First question, what is the best books you can recommend with regards to all the metaphysical information with regards to the energy body, energy systems? Well, each book has got some information about it. I don't know that there's one book that's best for that.
That depends on whether you're talking the Chinese energy systems or Hindu or American acupuncture. I mean, there's a lot of energy systems.
Yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of energy systems. Yeah. I did a video on books, which has got a lot of basic information about the history of the craft and some of the subjects in the craft and so forth. And some of those books are going to have information about different energy systems, but you just try to read and stay up on, and experiment and explore and see what works. I mean, when I was learning how to do massage, we took both the Western approach with Swedish massage and then the Eastern approach with shiatsu and, the acupuncture meridian energy system and so forth. So they have their own anatomy and energy anatomy. And it's completely different. They have a different approach.
They're valid also, even though they're different than like the Kundalini system, which is valid also in a different fashion.
I'm getting actually warm for the first time. Yeah. Maybe we can turn off our heat. This is a first. Fantastic. Or turn our heat down. All right. So, I have read so many different books about, the chakra systems. There's a lot of books about those. And most of them are in what I call the rainbow chakra system, where they sort of superimpose the rainbow from the bottom of the spine all the way up. But in India, their chakra system's got different colors. And, and Greek has their own. The Greeks have their own chakra system and Kundalini system. And, it's like...
Yeah, I heard that the Zuni have their own version also.
Yeah, so if you can find things that were written longer ago by a culture that's used the system consistently, you have a fairly good chance of getting mostly accurate information from those sources, but being able to understand what they're talking about is another subject all on its own.
That's a
Because
fact.
if you're going to learn stuff from India, you have to start to acquaint yourself with the terminology that they use and what those terms mean, and it's like
Yeah.
learning an entire
And it
language.
actually becomes pretty difficult to
Yeah.
wade through it, figure out what they're talking about.
So Luna says, please can you help me to settle a difference of opinion? I'd welcome both yours and Ian's view. If I'm wrong, I'll gladly put on the witch's hat and go stand in the corner for the rest of the class. Meditate for at least 10 minutes each day. Oops, my finger slipped and I went down. Come back here. Boy, I really went down there. Okay, meditate for at least 10 minutes each day and believe this to be crucial to my magical practice as well as my personal development. As practitioners of magic, should we all aim to meditate every day? Well, you can do different kinds of meditation, but I think the answer for me is yes. And I know the answer for Ian is yes, because he does some very focused meditation. I do more, being in the moment and small meditations. As a massage practitioner, working on my clients is sort of a meditation because I'm tuning into their body and being in the moment and that kind of thing. Yeah, so, it doesn't have to be a specific type of meditation in particular, but focused awareness, inner awareness, paying attention to the self and becoming aware of the climate of your subconscious and so forth is what meditation helps with, and whatever works. Even sitting on the grass can be a form of meditation. So
yeah, I definitely agree. I need more than just a couple hours a day. An hour in the morning, an hour at night might barely get me by.
And everyone's different. So Moonfire Dawn says, my crow friends had a baby, and this year they nested by our apartment, and now there's a few of them. Cool. Zuzana says, I want to ask if it is that important to have witch name while working with gods, spirits, fairies, etc. If it is actually dangerous to work with your own name. Personally, no, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
That idea comes from way back when, the belief that if you gave someone your true name, then you gave them power over you. And I think in reality what that was about was when things were first named, sort of like the energy of the thing in itself was in the name. And so if you understood its true name, then you understood everything about it, and understanding gives you power, over the substance or yourself or what have you. And then that was sort of solidified during the burning times, because if you were in a coven, you had to have a magical name, not because you needed a magical name for magical purposes, but because you needed a magical name so that no one could identify you to the witch hunters. Because, it was sort of an identity protection kind of thing. And nowadays, some people, I know with changing my name and so forth, it's a matter of being able to redefine myself, opening up new pathways, and not necessarily being defined by the people I grew up with and so forth and how they think of me, because people often don't like to let you change and grow. It's sort of something that annoys them. But I don't think that if you gave a fairy or a god or whatever your name, it would cause you harm, because you know what? They already know it. This is not like a giant secret.
Myself, I use Ian Coyote, but that's for the same reason as Siofra. That name fits me a lot better than my birth name, and that name describes who I am better than my birth name.
Yeah, and so it's a matter of personal taste. And in some traditions, it's a part of an initiation where you're joining their tradition and you take on a coven magical name or whatever, and sometimes that name is never spoken by anyone except members of your coven. It really depends on the kind of group that you're in. So Luna says crows can talk and often speak whole sentences and have been known to imitate dogs' owners' voices so they can lure the dogs away and eat their food. Oh, those guys. Those guys are so smart. Vanessa V says, so talking about animals, how do you know what your spirit animals are and not just animals you really like? Well, that's one of those things too. It's a very good question because it's going to depend on so many things. It's like, I mean, if somebody comes up to you and says your spirit animal is blah, I tend not to put any stock in that because they're not you, and how do they know? Maybe they're right, maybe they're not right. But if you just accept their word for it, then you might be going down the wrong path. Um, it's it's not just the animals that you like, but the animals you have a relationship with and have a connection to on some level. And yeah,
Yeah, Coyote introduced himself to me. Says, "I'm Coyote and I'm your totem animal." Pretty much.
yeah. So when that happens, you got, oh, okay. Whether you like it or not, guess what? Here I am.
Yep.
And in some levels, he did not like it for a while. So it's like,
Well, but it fits though. That's really who I am when you come down to it.
yeah. And like for me, the deer was easy for me to tell because total strangers would come up and tell me that I looked like a deer. I mean, people commented on it so often, it became like this collection of impressions from other people. And I thought about it and realized that it was true. It's a totem animal. It's part of my nature, my personality, my core personality. And the bear was in the beginning spirit, an animal I adopted because you can learn things from animals. So it doesn't have to be your spirit animal in the beginning. It can then become your spirit animal, and then they can change. So it really is a variable kind of
Yeah, and
thing.
it does vary. My spirit animals are associated with my chakras. Apparently, other people's are not, and that's okay with me. It's just a unique thing. So, you always have those unique things for individuals anyway.
So Suzanne says, hi, Siofra and everyone. Been a while since I visit. All is good. I just had either energy first on Drumvid 2. I just did. Well, okay. Something's going on with a drum on the video. So hi, Suzanne, however, whatever that was. Gary says, hello, everyone. Fabulous video today. Thank you, Loretta. Thank you, Loretta, on becoming clear. It was interesting to try and figure out how to talk about that because it's a subject that comes up fairly often. Jonathan says, Adam's question sparks something I was thinking of this week. Would you and everyone here think it's a good idea to turn the comment section of your books video into a forum on book suggestions? Well, you're free to put in book suggestions.
Yeah, that seems like kind of a good idea.
Yeah. And somebody has started, when they review the video, have started putting in like hashtags and things like that in the comments on 2 different videos so far, and I'm perfectly okay with that. That helps other people maybe find what they're looking for better. Adam says, would be better if we make a Discord.
We don't want to make a Discord server, Adam. We talked about that previously.
Oh, that's what that
That's
is.
what
Okay.
they use for the communications,
Nah.
chat on headphones and stuff. Yeah.
So, Adam, I don't know how to do that.
But we're not interested.
But we're not interested anyway. You guys want to do it? It's all entirely up to you. Luna says, thank you, Siofra and Ian, for answering my question. Guess I don't need to stand in the corner then? Well, unless you really want to. I mean, maybe there's something cool hiding in the corner.
Corner magic.
Yeah, corner magic. Adam says, question, what does it mean to visit the planetary sphere or something? Does that mean astral travel to the actual planet? Is that possible? Wouldn't your silver cord be broken if that was to happen? It doesn't have to be astral travel, and the answer is no. Your silver cord is able to stretch as far as infinity, so it's not going to like overtax it. And yes, I have been astral traveled as well as mental travel to planets.
Yeah, there's a difference between the planets and the zones. You can't go past the zone girdling the Earth in your astral body. So like the zone girdling the moon or Mars or something would be off limits in your astral body.
So it'd be mental travel.
So it'd be mental travel, but if you're dealing with astral travel to the actual planet, I believe you could pretty much do that. you wanted to. I haven't tried.
But when you're, you can meditate on and get in touch with the energy of a planet without going to the planet as well.
True. Very true. They've got the cameos and magic squares and things that deal with that if you want to get into specific planetary energies. Yeah.
Samantha Crow says, "My bird came and so a crow was born. Your name chooses you." That is often the case. Luna says that Samantha Crow, kind of how I got my name too. Danny says, "Do you know of many people who have a spirit animal of a bat or find themselves in a bat cave when shamanic vision traveling?" Ironic, since we were just speaking about bats and a group of bats being called a cauldron, and yes, Ian has a connection to bats. He actually had a bat come out in broad daylight, fly over his head and circle around his head while he was in a reservoir, and then fly off. And whenever we're out camping, it doesn't matter what lights are doing what or whatever. As soon as the bats come out, they're all around him. So I don't see any reason why bats are eggs.
Yeah, I haven't ended up in a bat cave, but
Oh, we have been in a couple of bat caves.
Well,
in reality,
physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, not when shamanic traveling.
But I imagine they have all kinds of interesting wisdom. Being the kind of hearing that they have, the way they see things with sound and so forth, and just, who knows. So Vanessa V says, "And I have a bit of a long question about the Fae. I made a wind chime with bells and rattles inspired by your psychic defense video. You said it was to protect from spirits. Does that include," and I'm assuming, "the Fae?" I watched a video from another witch that said Fae don't like wind chimes, but it doesn't make sense to me. I always felt that the Fae like those types of sounds. I agree. I've never had them not like it. I think that the ringing bells is to chase away negative spirits, not. And the Fae aren't negative, They're kind of like, their own thing. Luna says, "Corner magic." I spend my whole primary education in the corner. Damn, I miss it there. Well, see, maybe you were being prepared for a special form of magic. Danny says, "Excellent. High five to my bat friend."
High five back at you.
It's rare, I know. Adam says, "Okay, but what do you mean by planetary sphere? For example, where you meet specific types of entities? For example, the Venusian entities that you talked about before?"
This is one of those subjects that would take a long time to explain and really make sense of it for somebody who hasn't gone through Barton's books.
Well, okay, so every planet in our solar system has an energy field, right? That sort of goes around. It's kind of like we have our magnetic field and our atmosphere and so forth. And every planet has got energetically a sphere of energy that goes around them. And each planet has got beings that inhabit that particular planet. Not that they're alive and physical and can travel, to other parts of the solar system. Some of them can, but not physically. And I have encountered a number of different planetary intelligences when I've, in my youth and so forth, and going out and encountering, the comets that I used to sit on flying back towards the sun because I thought that was fun.
Yeah, they carry the energy of the planetary stuff. So if you were to contact a Mars entity, it'd be very fiery and rapid and movement. And Venus is the love-related entities, and Hod is Mercury, pretty much. So that would be your, Mercury would be your mental things and the beings dealing with mental issues and things like that. They have the energy of the planet, so they'd have that. They need that color of light.
Yeah, and it's hard to explain when you haven't actually experienced it, but I have experienced it, so I know that they exist. And
yeah, there's not a.
So Vanessa V says, "Thanks for your answer on the spirit animals too." You're welcome. Danny says, "Had experiences in this with me in a bat cave as a bat, scary and real." Interesting. So maybe a past life memory even. I had that encounter with the Black Panther when I was just out of high school, I think. Actually, I might have still been in high school. We lived outside of Washington, D.C., the National Zoo there, and I went there to see Mohini the white tiger, and I felt this presence like tickling in the back of my head and neck, sort of indescribable, but when it happens, you know that means someone is staring at you. And I turned around and saw the Black Panther was up on his log tree thing, and he was looking right at me, and I experienced being his mate and living in the jungle and hunting and having kittens and laying in the sun and letting my digestion work and all this other stuff. I mean, it was like I had an entire life with that panther in the few minutes that our eyes were locked. And it is always interesting to me when something like that happens to me in public. Like, it's not, I don't have these things happen just, in the middle of nowhere with no one else around, but in public with 40 or 50 other people who are standing there looking at the tiger, and notice that I'm looking in the opposite direction, and then everyone's eyes turned around and looked at the leopard panther, and he turned his back on everybody and sat down and wouldn't look at anyone anymore. So, there are things you can learn from experiencing being an animal. There's things about what they know that is special to them and so forth. And it is scary in the sense that you're suddenly not yourself. And the idea of not being yourself is the thing that I think is scary, not necessarily the experience in and of itself, but that sudden loss of control, and being somewhere else suddenly. So I'm glad you made it through. So Adam's question is, what is shamanic traveling journeying? Is it different than astral traveling?
I'd say no, not really. There are different methods used than what's normally listed for astral traveling. Often during the shamanic journeying will be an entrance into the earth through a hole or a cave or a spring or something like that. And it consists of going down the tunnel till you get to the underworld where you can work with beings and things, but it's another version of astral and mental travel using different techniques to do basically the same thing.
The medicine person in a tribal environment, their unique ability has to do with being able to traverse into the spirit world, communicate with spirit beings of all kinds, including the plants and animals, as well as the gods and goddesses and guardians and ancestors of the people, and bring back the information that the people in the tribe need in order to move forward in the right direction.
That's a good
or to be
definition of it.
healed. And I really don't think there's much in the way of difference. It's just a different word system that they're using.
Yeah, different techniques that are used, a different way of visualizing things, but the same real result. It's, there's 10 different ways to do anything.
Yeah, some cultures do it in the dream kingdom, do it through dreaming and stuff like that. So Danny says, thanks for answering. You're welcome. Adam says, we already answered that. How is it different? Gary says, this morning a mouse came into my garage. My cat knew she was in the house, read my cards, very much related to your video, tunnel vision. Look at the whole picture. Wow. Okay.
And for Adam, the practice of magical evocation is the name of that book.
Yes, that's the one that's got all the. It's a really good resource material. At the least, it's a wonderful source of information. It has all the spirit seals of all the different spirit beings. It's got their names. It's got their jobs, what they're good for, what they're good with, what they want in exchange if they want anything, whether they're going to do it, whether it's good or bad for your karma or not, or whether they'll only do it if it's good for your karma, or it's just like
most of them are all positive beings, so most of them won't do something to let you get yourself in trouble unless you were to insist on it with them. They'll normally be nice and try to tell you it's be bad for your karma in most cases.
Well, they all have their own will thing going on.
Yes.
So Danny says, wow, thanks for sharing about the panther. So lovely. Yes, it was really awesome. Danny says, with Bat Event, it gave massive fear and release of fear, maybe an appreciation of the beauty of the animal. Well, they are so cute, really, you know. They're just a little mouse with wings. Most of them.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty
some of
much.
them are pretty big, like the flying foxes, and
But yeah,
they're
I've always
huge,
had a
but
lot of bat contact, especially as a kid. They were all around me.
and they're good for the environment because they eat mosquitoes and things, and they keep that population down. If you live in a place that has a lot of mosquitoes, you can build bat houses and attract them to your garden and stuff like that, which is something I think I'd like to do once we get our backyard all settled, and see if we can get a few bats coming in, because I've seen them every so often flying in the area, so I know we have bats around someplace.
Thunder did one on our walk one day.
Oh, I'm
Baby bat.
sorry. Aw, poor little guy.
I think a cat got it.
Could be. Gary says, I love the medicine cards, Sam's and Carson. It helps me to find my spirit animals. Fun to read, Loretta. I've never found them useful for me, but I'm glad that you do. That's awesome. Kate Kavya Patel says, question, do Harry Potter spells are fiction or are the real life? No, they're not real. They're based on the idea and concepts of real magic, you know, like sympathetic magic and associative magic, and you know, using your will, using wands to focus and concentrate and so forth. But the information that they have in there about the wands and the kind of wood and what they mean, and you know, and stuff like that, as far as I can tell, is not accurate in any way.
Fiction. The only part they added some little references to like Nicholas Flamel, who was a famous alchemist, and things like that from the past, but none of the information they have in there about them is accurate.
Right. And buying a Harry Potter wand, I don't know why my mouth stopped working. It's not a magic wand. You can maybe make it into a magic wand, but it's not going to work by itself. It's just like, you know, a fun, what do you call them? Thing from a movie. So Monica says, a couple of weeks ago I asked you about possession concerning my brother with mental issues. One of the suggestions you gave was to slip him some selenite. Well, I finally got it over there last night. Oh. He ended going to the psych ward last night. Okay. Well, hopefully that'll help him. Silver Soul Fox says, I have many mirrors in my magical space, which is also my bedroom, limited space. They were here when I moved in 20 years ago. Should I cleanse or lock them to keep entities, spirits from traveling? You can do that. I have a video on psychic self-defense and ghost-proofing your house that goes through how you can seal mirrors so that they'll only be used when you want them to be used. But basically, you know, getting charged salt water and incense burning and drawing. We use the earth pentagram for sealing things up, and so you draw the earth pentagram in the air and around it and stuff, and then place it in there, and that will keep uninvited guests from wandering through. Monica says he ended up going to the psych ward. Adam says, question, I have heard that there are places in the multiverse that your energy body can absorb certain types of energy that cannot be obtained by any other method like ritual or other means. Is that true? If so, can you explain why this is so? Well, I don't know if it's true or not because the multiverse is not where I live. I mean, if we lived in multiple universes all the time, it's confusing enough as it is, being in one body and remembering maybe the past lives in the one that you're in. I think that is an interesting concept, but
Practically speaking, irrelevant.
Yeah, good way of putting it.
The only place I've read about something like that would have been in the Carlos Castaneda books, and I don't know how much veracity to give those.
And the Marvel Universe.
Well, yeah. Well, they don't mention the multiverse, but the Castaneda books do mention going to this place.
No, the whole thing right now is going to be the multiverse.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Anyway.
Monica says, hope he gets the help he needs, but I'm just over here thinking like, damn, that selenite sure did work. Well, I'm hoping it helps, because it's supposed to bring in light, you know, and awareness and...
You missed Cavias.
Are flying ointments dangerous? Ah, yes. They're made out
Most
of
all the
poisonous plants.
most all the recipes I've seen, yes.
And if you want to put a toxic plant in your vaginal tract, you will fly. And hopefully you will come back. But you might not. I think belladonna is one of the most common ingredients for those things. And
Yeah.
I think it's much easier to actually mental travel than it is to use a flying ointment and not have bad repercussions.
You can look up old recipes, but I haven't seen one that I would be willing to try by any means.
I can guarantee you, though, that baby fat is not one of the actual ingredients, although they list that in a lot of the old books because they were written by the Christian church to show why witches were evil. They really never used baby fat for anything, especially unbaptized baby fat. I think that's what it was supposed to be. And yeah,
I'm not going to follow.
I read those things when I was younger because there were no books on witchcraft when I was a kid, and so those were the only things available. And I'd be reading this stuff and going like, "That's not true. That's not how it was done." So a good thing I knew. So Emily Love says, "Did you guys hear about the witchcraft book burning at a Tennessee church a few days ago? It looked bigger than I'm comfortable with. Sorry to be a downer. A witchcraft book." Oh, a burning, a book burning of witchcraft books.
But
yes.
No, I was not aware
no,
of it.
I have not heard of it, but it doesn't surprise me. That doesn't mean they're not around, though. We've got most of these things on the internet now, so good luck trying to burn those. Haha. Good luck trying to get rid of the information. Jonathan says to Monica, "Good job. Your brother is lucky to have you." Luna says, "I did a sum total of 163 of those earth pentagrams to seal my home earlier this week. I've been practically performing them in my sleep." I know. And actually, it's interesting to do. After I've done a few houses, occasionally this has happened where I've gone out mental travel later and gone through to make sure I didn't miss anything. And you can actually see those pentagrams glowing blue on the other side. It's pretty cool. I recommend.
And it's nice. You'll get more. The more times that you do them, the more of an effect you'll get from each one. Also, so.
Yep. Silver Fox. Soul Fox says yes. TYVM. What does that mean? Thank you very much. I drew protection symbols on them with lipstick after I spritzed with salt water, hoping it helps. Thank you. You are such an inspiration. All right. It's a good way to send energy back to people too, but you have to. It's best to turn the mirror around the other way for that. Kavya says, "Have you ever seen flying witches?" No, not in person. Although I saw a bunch of videos of supposed flying witches on broomsticks in Mexico.
Well, you can see them supposedly levitating too, but it's just a thing where they make the muscles spasm and they twitch and you jump up into the air briefly. It's not real levitation.
So John Doe says a Russian, German, and American walk into a bar. The barman asks, "What's this? Some kind of a joke?" Yep.
I like it.
Sounds like it to me.
Yep.
Luna says, "Monica, I hope your brother gets the help he needs." Yeah, me too. Because it's not a fun thing to exist in that kind of a state. I remember when I went through that, when I was actively hallucinating every day for almost a year. It's people who haven't had it happen say it's just a hallucination, but they don't know what they're talking about. they have no clue because they can't see it. It's not just a hallucination. It's a living, vibrant thing in front of your face asking you stupid questions for me anyway. They kept asking me for keys. They wanted to have them. So Kavya says, "Have you ever experienced negative spirits?" Yes. I had a spirit try and possess me when I was a teenager. And it was, I did a whole video on it, one of my earlier videos. But basically, I woke up in the middle of the night. I smelled smoke in my room. And I'm going to do this so I don't lose track. And I rolled over onto my back, and it looked like the house was on fire. I could smell it, I could see it, I could hear it. And then a black shadow came from the ceiling and pinned me to the bed and actually pushed me down into my mattress and down into the springs where I could actually hear the springs creaking. It was pretty amazing. But it was like I knew what to do when it happened. It didn't scare me, which later scared me. It's a funny thing. And I knew that it was a matter of willpower, and I told it, you can't have me. My willpower, my will is stronger than yours, and I started fighting against it. And when I was able to lift my head, which seemed like it took forever, it flew through the ceiling and all the fire went away. And I got out of bed and searched the house to see if there was a source of this for the smoke. Um, when I woke up in the morning, I freaked out because I'm like, what the heck was that? And I told my mother I'd had a bad dream because I needed to tell her, but later she told me she knew I was lying, that it wasn't a dream, that it was real. So I would say that that was a pretty vivid encounter with a negative spirit.
I haven't had any direct experiences. I once went and talked to a being that is called a demon. I'm not sure if it's a negative spirit or not, but I had no problems there. It was polite and respectful and talked to me, and it was to deal with an issue of keeping somebody away from us who was worshiping that particular being as a goddess. Though it's
Wrong.
yeah,
Incorrect.
long story there.
Don't need to get into the details.
Basically, I talked to what was supposedly one of the goetic demons, and got a no problem. That person would leave us alone.
We did encounter a malevolent spirit once south of us in a museum.
Oh, that right.
And I didn't have an encounter with it in particular because, you know, it was trapped inside of a wax figure. I was just like, okay, I'm leaving now. And I turned to Ian and I said, we're going now. He says, okay. And we toddled on after, like, now, why did we have to leave? Well, let me tell you what was in that wax figure. And you know, I did not know exactly why it was there or who had put it there and what was going on. I decided it was above my pay grade. And
yeah, it usually takes me a while. I probably would have figured it out. I mean, in retrospect, yeah, the place just felt bad, but I hadn't pinned it on that one thing at the time. I just knew it felt bad being in there. It usually takes me a while before things
filter
turn into
in.
something my brain comprehends.
Yeah. Filters down.
Yeah.
So Jonathan says, Emmy Love, I saw a video of that book burning, that hateful pastor, scary stuff. It reminded me of what happened in Germany about 75 years ago. They were focused on Harry Potter. Unbelievably stupid. Well, yeah, they actually think that all that stuff is real. And, yeah, so. I was watching one of the, I accidentally ended up on the 700 channel one day, and they were talking about witches and how selfish we are and how we want to do everything our own way. And then they were talking about how Harry Potter was teaching children real magic, and I'm going like, what? And then turning them to Satan and blah blah blah. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. So Vanessa V said, do the she always have white hair? A woman visited me in a dream, and I felt she was a she, but she didn't tell me herself, but her hair was black. I don't know. The she I've met have had white hair. That doesn't mean that she might not be, like, a part of the she and have different color hair. I don't know, because they're spirits. They can probably do anything with their hair. I'd say go by your gut with that, though. Monica says, thank you, guys. I'm hoping for the best for him. Hopefully he comes down soon. I hope so, too. So Adam says, question, another occultist recommends that one should remove because it acts as a suction point where parasites can siphon energy through them.
Remove your chakras.
Oh, is that what they're talking about?
Look 2 lines down.
What is your opinion on this, and have you ever heard about anything like that before? Remove your chakras? I think it sounds like an idiotic idea, personally.
Me too.
Because your chakras are part of your energy body, and they're a natural part of your system. If you're trying to remove them, that means you're trying to become something that's not human.
Like removing your liver because you could get cirrhosis, or removing your stomach because you could get ulcers.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. That's my opinion. Desideratum. Hi, haven't seen you in a while. At Kavya says, Flying is usually referred to astral travel. What Hollywood portrays witchcraft to be is inaccurate and overblown. Questions like this are really like trolling. No, people are actually curious. It's okay. Easy bin shalom. Hello, greetings from Europe. Hi. I have a question that concerns me. Is it bad luck to have a peacock ornament in your house? Well, that depends on your belief system. I have peacock feathers everywhere. I have peacock figures that I've painted, like this one, which is on my altar. Peacocks are sacred to Hera. I was introduced to Argus, whose eyes became the eyes of the peacock. So for me, it's a personal connection after Argus came and said, "Hey, let me have a look at you." Um, it's funny. It's interesting to me that in Greece, a lot of times peacock feathers are considered bad luck. In India, peacocks are considered really lucky and important birds because they have this unique ability to be able to consume toxic, poisonous stuff without harm. And so it all depends on your cultural upbringing and your personal belief system. If you think it's bad luck, it's bad luck. If you realize it's just an idea and you like them, they are extremely loud in person, from what I hear. So you might not want to have one living in your bedroom, but. So, Kaivia says, my mom is a witch and she says that invisibility spells do exist. What about your advice? Well, it depends on what you mean by invisibility. I was able to make myself unseeable from someone who was standing right in front of me on one occasion, and I think that is a, what do you call that? Sort of a, it's like I misdirected their eyes.
There's multiple types. There's the one where the person simply looks past you and doesn't notice you.
Right, it's like.
And that's a type of psychological invisibility.
And then astrally, or in the mental plane and so forth, I made someone's apartment once invisible so that she wouldn't get harassed, and so that it couldn't be seen from astral or mental plane or what have you. So the spirit that she thought was harassing her wouldn't be able to get in. Whether that was really happening or not is a different question. So I think that true invisibility, like in a crowd of people, is probably unlikely, because the one I did was just with one person. So if there were other people there, it might not have worked. Although I was pretty tickled. I stood between, I was in a tree trunk. It was like a tree that separated like this in a V, and I was naked, and I was standing in this tree, and at eye level, right at as the path went towards the tree and then went around the tree. So it's like right in front of him. And he's walking down the path, and I'm just standing there. I'm air. There's only air in this tree. It's all there is air between these trunks. And he walked right by me, and then I started giggling because, I couldn't believe it worked. And then he turned around and saw me. I just thought that was a hoot. So, I don't know. IU says, do recurring dreams mean anything? Is there any difference between vision and a dream? Well, yes. Recurring dreams can often mean there's something that you need to pay attention to, and you're not listening to your subconscious, which is trying to give you information. And you can have precognitive dreams as well as visions, so they can be both the same and different. John Doe says, I heard about merging all the chakras into one energy point instead of having 7 separate ones. It's supposed to help with shady energy working like the death current and vampirism. No, I don't think so.
No,
the better thing to help with vampirism and energy work is like having a strong energy field.
Yeah, part of Kundalini aspect is to bring the Kundalini up, and you bring it to the various chakras, and it clears the ones below you, and that part of your body becomes cold, and you bring the energy up to your third eye or to your crown. And if you can bring it up to your third eye and just be there in your third eye, that's one thing. And you experience being in that chakra, but you're not actually merging your chakras. In that case, it's just temporarily taking the energy out of them and moving it up. to the higher chakras.
If you actually succeeded in doing that, then your bowels wouldn't work, and your stomach wouldn't
Yeah,
work,
you
and your
would.
liver wouldn't work, because that energy in the chakras down there is for your physical body to allow it to
Yeah,
function.
you would basically die if you could do that. If you pull them up like that, that would end your life pretty much.
Okay, so Adam thinks that's what they meant, but. And Jonathan says, hi to Desideratum. Luna says, at Monica, I'm not sure of your brother's situation, but my eldest son has had ongoing problems with nasty spirit attachment for over 2 years. He sees it, but both me and his girlfriend have seen it too. And Emmy Love says, and Twilight and tarot cards and crystals encouraged it all into the fire. Someone threw in a Bible as protest. Well, awesome. But how silly. We actually had one of, it hasn't happened in a while, but I had one of those Christians who popped in to leave me a comment to tell me to please stop doing all this stuff because I was going to go to hell and he was trying to save me and all this other stuff, so I just hid the channel from him. Because really, I'm old enough to have made up in my own mind, and if I'm wrong, well, that's the way it is. So Violet says, I'm quiet but listening intensely as I laminate and slice papers for art projects. So, Desideratum says, hi there! Howdy, Jonathan. Just checked in. Lynn O says, I meet my first goddess god in a dream the other day. It announced itself as the god of music and turned my whole dream into a musical. That's great. And I hate musicals. Well, that was a pretty direct hit, wasn't it? I had the dream a few days back, I think just before the last live show, where I was spontaneously singing a song about love and creation and all this other stuff, and it was rhyming and everything, and I became slowly aware of the fact that I was singing this rhyming song, and it was just sort of happening, and I wasn't sure what the next words were, and then I worried that I was going to not do it right, and they weren't going to rhyme anymore, so that made me wake up. It was a pretty awesome song, and I immediately forgot it. Luna says that Monica, he's been on various medication and been hospitalized, but finally he seems much better. The entity is still present, but as my son is very positive at the moment, it has little to feed off of. And that's true. A lot of these things, they will atrophy, die, and fall away when they don't get what they need.
Right.
Which is a good, response. And she says that, Monica, I hope your brother gets to this point too. John Doe says, I also hate musicals. Yeah, Ian is with you.
Yep.
Except for the one that we went to in person.
Well, except for maybe the Phantom of the Opera.
That would be the one we went to in person. Which I guess is technically a musical, but not our idea of an actual musical like Oklahoma or something like that. Which would definitely not be your cup of tea. Lynn says, glad to hear I'm not the only one. Emmy Love says, love peacocks, possibly a spirit animal. Lakshmi is connected to them, I think.
That's good.
I saw them in Hawaii as a child and fell in love. Yes, actually, Sarasvati is also connected to them. I have a Sarasvati pendant, and she has both the swan and the peacock, which is where I learned about what the peacock could do. The peacock is always there, but off to the side somewhere, like not in, like middle view. So the pendant I have has her and the swan and the lotus and the scroll that she carries and the instrument, the musical instrument, but not the peacock. But when I did my research on the pendant, because I was very attracted to it and discovered that it was definitely not Kuan Yin like they told me at the store, which I was pretty sure it wasn't, that it was Sarasvati, I learned a lot of stuff about the peacock in the process, so that was kind of cool. Desideratum says that John Doe, the 7 chakras condensed to one point at the time of death, supposedly. Sounds a bit dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, supposedly, according to the Hindu doctrine, the goal at that point, if the point of your dying is to put everything into your brow chakra and then rise above that, at which point you'll leave your body and die.
So Kimberly Kells Dyer says, hi, Siofra and Ian, I'm a newbie. I'm so glad to have come across your channel. I found this channel when I was looking for information about witches' balls. Looking forward to learning more from you both. Well, welcome to our channel, and we're always glad to have new people, because that's why we're doing this, is so you can find some information that you might be able to trust and help you along on your path. So Easy Ben Shalom says, thank you, I know what to do. Luna says, Kimberly, welcome. Kavya says, can you give advice for beginners witches? What type of book should we read? So I just did a video on books. So you can look at the video on books. They're good books to read. And there's so many books out there. So watch the video and get some ideas. And Jonathan came up with the idea of putting other books in the comment section or whatever for, you know, other possibilities and so forth. Hopefully along with like some kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? A little description of what the book is about and impressions of the author and that kind of thing. So Kimberly said, thank you, Luna. John Doe says, Desidratum black magic is dangerous. Desidratum says, John Doe, oof, yeah, no experience with black magic. Oops. Okay. It didn't go back too far. Jonathan says, hi, Kavya. Siofra did a video on books. I just said all that. Okay, I'm going to skip that. Thank you. And hi, butterfly magic with hot tea. I must have missed that. Oh, there we are. Hey, folks. I probably already told you this, but you have a great name. It is a great name. Thank you, Ian. Monica says at Luna, he was on some pretty hardcore meds. It almost killed him over the summer. We got him off of the meds and was doing good, but he is weak and fell to his self-medicating, and now we're here again.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, sometimes self-medication does not work well. Most of the time it doesn't, unless you really know what you're doing and you're an herbalist. Adam says, question. The YouTuber has a really informative video on why he removed chakras, in that he said it traps sexual energy or something like that. Would you mind if I link you in a PM and you tell if it's crap or not on what he's doing?
No, I tell you right now, it's crap. I have no interest in investigating something
that we know is crap.
That we know is crap to start with.
So I guess the answer is don't bother, because we won't look at it. All right. We have lots of other things to do. Monica says, please don't pity him. He has done it to himself. I'm a little over trying at this point. I just want my mother to be safe because she won't let him go. I'm sorry. We have Ian's sister who has actually come back several times in the last while, left weird clothing hanging in our yard. We're not sure why. And then most recently a book on how to fix a Jeep, which we don't have. So yeah, she's still out there and we don't know. She's psychotic. Yeah. And she has a lot of delusions and things like that. And it's impossible to predict how someone who's in a completely psychotic delusional state, what they might justify doing in that state, and they might harm you. So you have to protect yourself first and foremost, even if you feel sorry for them. And we certainly have a lot of compassion for his sister, but there's nothing we can do. She won't let us help her.
And you can't predict what she thinks is actually going on. So
yes, I gave her a bowl of soup and she thought I was poisoning her.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so anyway. Luna says that, Monica, I'm so sorry to hear this. My son also used to self-medicate. It's very scary. Kavya says, I subscribe to you. Well, yay, thank you. We always like new subscribers. Vanessa V says, peacocks are also sacred here in Mexico as far as I know. Awesome. Michael V. Art says, hello, me too, new here. Just found you searching fairies since it's Fairy February and all. Glad to be here. It's Fairy February? I did not know we had a Fairy February. How cool is that? Why does nobody tell me these things? So yay, welcome. Fairies and I are good friends. Kavya says, you look pretty when you are laughing.
No, well, I agree good. With that. I second that.
Yes. We like me laughing much better than any other thing. So Luna says, hi, Michael, welcome. Teresa says, this is so interesting. I'm taking notes. The book video has so much information. Well, I tried. I mean, yeah. There's just so many books out there, but you can only learn so much from books. You can get ideas and stuff like that, but the only thing that really teaches you magic is doing magic. Yeah. That's the only thing that works. I mean, when I'm writing a ritual and stuff like that, it's like, I got all these grand ideas and I get them all down and so forth, and it's going to go fantastic, and then people get involved, and then not necessarily, it goes a completely different direction. You never know. So, butterfly. Oh, whoops, come back here. So Ruth says, I love the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Yay, he's great. I loved it too.
Oh, Meatloaf is dead now.
I know he passed.
Yeah.
Maybe he's like playing the role up in wherever he's going in his afterlife. Butterfly Magic with Hot Tea says, let's support Siofra's channel by hitting that like button. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love the likes. Kavya says, do teleportation exist? I don't think so, not realistically speaking. There are some stories from India where, someone has been able to transport themselves. The idea is that you can transport your spirit body and your mental body and your physical body into like the astral or mental plane and then go where you want and then rematerialize it down. But when it comes to practicality,
you might find one person in 500 years who's capable of doing something like that. I mean, I believe it's possible. It's just
highly unlikely.
The average person ain't going to do it ever.
Yes.
And
if you're going to spend your energy trying to learn something, I recommend learning something that's going to help you more in the here and now in your life.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce the name of Sri Yukteswar, if that's right, was known to teleport and be in different places and sometimes be in two places at one time.
I have done biolocation without knowing it, at least according to other people who've seen me in places I know I wasn't over the years, on a number of occasions, but that happens on an unconscious level, so I'm not aware of the fact that I'm doing it. My son, however, did it on purpose when he was in school. When we lived up in the Kispiox Valley, I told him he really needed to focus on getting better handwriting because his handwriting really sucked. And the handwriting class was at the same time as his history class. So he went to sleep in his history class, woke up in his handwriting class, and took that class, and he was actually marked present in both classes, even though mind was not really in the history one. But I just thought that was fascinating that he succeeded in doing that because he was a kid, and sometimes they don't have those mental blockages that we get as we get older. And of course, he was raised by me who, boundaries. I have one kind of boundary, but the other kind, not so much. Like, things can happen. It's possible. Anything's possible. So Monica says, it's hard. I do very much appreciate all the advice and think you have built a beautiful little community here. Glad to have found you guys. Thank you, Monica. And I know life is hard. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of challenges that happen in all of our lives. And I find that walking the path helps me meet those challenges. Makes me feel a little bit less powerless in some situations, although it doesn't cure everything. Desidram says at Kivia, there's another channel on YouTube called Foolish Fish that reviews occult books, old and new. Probably a favorite, a lot of folks on this thread. Favorite to a lot of folks on this thread. And Luna agrees, Foolish Fish is excellent.
Haven't heard of it, but I'll give it a check out.
And John Doe says Foolish Fish has some great book reviews. Perfect for occult bookworms. Monica says at Luna, it is scary. Michael V. Art says, Fairy February is just a fun little art prompt for the month. Bunch of artists drawing fairies every day this month, like Mermaid is fun.
Cool.
Far out. I like this. I'm in. Although I can't draw fairies. I can see them, but I can't draw them. I would love to be able to draw them. That would be nice. But I have other skills. Michael, he did that one. Now I can move down. Amy Love says they have been able to teleport an atom in a lab. Yeah, and they're probably using a lot of energy to do that, and I think it's pretty cool. Quantum entanglement is something that they're starting to experiment a lot with, especially at a subatomic level. Mercury Chan says, could you take a video on life after death, also known as Ascension? Well, I think life after death and Ascension are two separate subjects. In my understanding, the idea of ascension is that you're going to ascend to a higher plane of existence while you're still alive because you're becoming more enlightened or what have you. And life after death, I have done on that. I'll have to look and see what the name of that video is, but I have done something on that. So science has shown that matter can be teleported. Yeah, tiny matter. Maybe in 1,000 years we can do our whole bodies. Kavya says, well, you'll be probably proud to know that you have an Indian who subscribed to you. Oh, from India.
Right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because I certainly have a lot of connections to the Hindu deities. I think I must have had a past life there, and so is Ian, because we both have those kind of automatic connections. Um, I was actually looking at my statue of Ganesh last night that's next to my bed on my nightstand. I was just thinking how I like him so much.
Yeah, I haven't talked to my little Ganesh lately.
Yep.
I should do that.
Luna says that Monica, I was close to giving up on my son at one point, as terrible as that sounds. It's incredibly draining and soul destroying, but I'm glad that I didn't give up. My thoughts are with you. John Doe says, I found teleportation is common bred when astral projecting. Many spirits have teleported me, and I can teleport myself into some planes in the astral. Yeah, but are you teleporting your physical body from location A to location B, like in the blink of an eye? I think is what other people are talking about with teleportation.
Yeah, traveling in the mental body is just
I
like
do that all the
You're
time.
just wherever you want to be the instant
Yeah.
you want to be there.
I do mental travel on a regular basis, and I'm in other places a lot when it comes to that. But Emily Love says Brian Scott's YouTube channel has a cool video on bilocation and supposedly confirmed occurrences. Charity says, hello there. Hi, Charity. Welcome. A Little Pillow Company says, question, the romantic in me wants to know how you and Ian met. You guys seem perfect with each other. Yes, we are perfect with each other, and we met in, I can only say, is the most perfect way possible, considering I met him at a pagan dessert potluck while I was high on chocolate cake for the first time. And then I just liked his energy a lot, and I like people in general, and I asked him a bunch of questions, and all of his friends were in shock because they'd never heard him talk before. Apparently, no one ever asked him a question. I don't understand why. He's got lots of information and things to say, but none of them were interested in his opinion, I guess. And then it took a while before we ended up on our first accidental date. And I say accidental date because everyone thought I was going out with his best friend, which I wasn't. He was taking me out to try and get me to become an acolyte of his or something. I've never had so much trouble getting a word in edgewise with someone in my life. And he complained to Ian later that I was too free with my opinion, which I thought was funny considering how hard I had to fight to get it out.
Well, that's one of the things I like about you.
Yeah. And so on our accidental date, it was like he was very, very shy. He was an extremely shy person. And I finally got him to dance with me on the dance floor, and then it went to a slow song, and he wouldn't dance with me, and I had to cajole him to get him back up on the dance floor. And finally got him back up there, and that time when it became a slow dance, he stayed. And I orchestrated some accidents on the dance floor, because I didn't want to shock him, because, the heart energy coming out of him, it was just sort of flew. I felt it come over my body and just kind of fill me up with this wonderful heart energy. And I just thought, wow, I like that. I want more of that. And so I arranged a few accidents on the dance floor that made me get a little closer to him. And by the end of the dance, it was straight body to body.
It was great anyway.
And yeah, and then I took him home and he never left. He's been there ever since, and it's been just perfect. So, Jonathan says, Ian, Foolish Fish is great, but you are much more advanced than he is. Okay. Michael says, what are your thoughts on Kriya and Babaji? Love all those topics, all these topics you're talking about.
I'm not so familiar with
the Babaji?
Yeah.
But the Kriyas you know something about.
Well, there's two types. There's Kriyas that you do, a Kriya yoga, but then there are also the automatic Kriyas that happen to you from Kundalini.
Right.
Which you don't know what you're going to do until you do them. Your body just does them.
Sort of spontaneous movements outside of your control.
Yeah, so like I say, I don't know about Babaji in particular, but I assume he's similar to a lot of the others out there. I've studied the more ancient ones, Ramakrishna and Sai Baba and the Kashmir Shaivism line, so Muktananda, Nityananda,
And we actually
that
met
lineage.
Chaitanya.
Yes, we were initiated by Chitanananda, or we got Shaktapat.
Not initiated, right?
Yes.
Shaktapat, which is sort of an
Well,
initiation.
it is, but it's not
Yeah.
a, yeah, it's not a laid out like an initiation is, like a ritual. Shaktapat.
So Kavya says, I do have a book name. Oh, Teresa says, I love Ganesh. Yeah, he's just wonderful. The Great Book of Papyri. I haven't heard of that book. Adam says, question, is it possible to travel to the source of all consciousness when you astral mental travel? Have you ever done so? And if so, how does it feel like when you did travel? It depends on your definition of that. If that's the source of all life in the universe, the answer is no, because the human mind is not capable of perceiving something that is then conscious of 10 billion other galaxies and all of the suns and planets and everything else that are in there. So I don't think that human style communication is something that can be done. I've definitely communed with some larger forces and so forth.
I would, there are techniques though for that. I would, I would slightly disagree with you on that, but that's okay. But I know that there are Hindu ways of doing so. Nirva Kalpi Samadhi or something like that is the getting in touch with the source of the universal consciousness. And if you were using Barton's Kabbalah, you'd achieve that by use of the letter E. So I believe it is possible, though I'm not anywhere near that myself.
Emmy Love says, awesome love story. Jonathan says, Adam, that's traveling to the Akaja. Well, that would be one way of putting it, actually.
Yeah.
Not the way I was thinking of something else. That I have done. I have been able to travel to the Akaja on more than one occasion. So Luna says, yep, I second Jono, Ian, and Siofra. I love the Alcove and the advice you offer more than I love Foolish Fish. It's not a competition, but thank you. Desideratum says that Jonathan, I think Mr. Foolish Fish is just more discreet with his personal magical life. Ah, so we're just like running around letting it all hang out, are we? Aha. Mercury
Well,
Chan, I guess we are. Mercury Chan says, I'd be interested in hearing about Ascension, breaking the cycle of reincarnation. Well, I'm not interested in trying to break the cycle of reincarnation myself, because I feel if we all leave the planet to its own devices and to all the other people that can't ascend, then, what was the point? I like the Earth. I think the Earth is a wonderful, beautiful place. I think it needs to have people like us to stay here in order to assist other people to get into a better mindset, maybe.
Yeah, and for breaking the cycle of reincarnation, I'm not familiar with the things that are termed under Ascension, but a lot of the Hindu gurus and things, I don't know if it's Mahatmas or the cities, but anyway, they take upon liberation, they take an oath to help everybody on earth to be liberated before they can accept the fruits of their liberation. And so that's one of the methods. Like I say, I'm not familiar with the Ascension so much, but there are lots of ideas of ways to evolve yourself enough to break the cycle of reincarnation.
Yeah, you probably you come to a point where you can make the decision to go one way or the other. I've had that happen to me at least on one occasion where I crossed over the threshold and was told that I could keep on going in that direction, but if I did, I would leave all humanity behind and I would stop in my human side development, and I chose to come back. That was up in the Kispiox Valley that happened. So JD John says, hey guys, hope you're both doing well. We're actually doing pretty good. Had the best doctor's appointment ever on Tuesday. It was awesome. Nothing's wrong. It's like, yay. So Jonathan says the Desideratum Foolish Fish didn't put half the effort into understanding the sigillum that Ian did, but it's not and should not be a competition.
Just my personal interest. I'm interested in going that far with things.
Foolish is good. Ian is my guru. Kavya says black pullet. Is that a chicken?
No, that's a grimoire,
Oh,
but I'm not familiar with it,
okay.
unless I'm mistaken. I assume that's what he's referencing there.
So Michael says Mahajavata, but you can read that one.
Well, Babaji is an immoral. Yogananda was an immoral.
Was immortal. I think he means immortal.
Probably, yes.
And that Yoganaga was in contact with also Sri Yukteswar's teacher. Okay.
Yeah, and he himself has claimed to have some aspects of immortality. He particularly proclaimed that if anybody at any time wanted his help after he was dead, he claimed he would willingly be there for them. He's a very interesting character on his own.
So Aaron Jones says, have you ever had this happen when you don't do any kind of magic for some time? Does your skin start to itch? Well, no, because I'm doing magic all the time just by existing. So if my skin itches, I figure I need a bath because I've had that happen. But no, I really haven't had that where like my energy is trying to get out of me and wants to be released. So
no, but I have had a weird energetic thing when I was drinking a herbal tea that caused me some issues and made me itch all over.
I think that's an allergic reaction.
Yeah, but I don't know what it was. It wasn't the kava in the tea, so it was something else in there. It had chicory in it and some other things.
I don't know, but
yeah,
I guess,
anyway,
Aaron, the
sorry.
answer is no, not that we know of. There are some times when I have a feeling in my gut that I need to do something or pay attention to something, a prompting and stuff from the universe that says, this is something that needs to be evaluated and looked at and done something about. But I don't think that's what you're talking about. Maybe it manifests differently for everybody. Michael V. Art says, cool perspective about Kriya and Kundalini. Never heard it put that way. Makes sense. Thank you. That's a bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva. Okay.
The Zeranum says, y'all are dedicated teachers, to each their own, I guess. Adam says, question. One time I saw a hellhound just sitting at my bedside. As soon as I woke up, and it just vanished into thin air afterwards. What do you think that means? Have you ever seen a hellhound before? No, I don't think I have. I've seen spirit beings and stuff like that have a lot of different varying shapes, but none that I would describe as a hellhound. So I really don't know what that means. If it was a negative experience for you, it probably means that you were attracting some kind of negative energy, or you were putting it out to pull it in on some level. If you're dealing with some inner conflicts in yourself about your path and so forth, and what is right and wrong or good and evil, that could explain it.
Yeah, probably a thought form or something that wasn't all that substantial.
Michael says, it always seems to come back to service to others at the highest level. Well, we have to do something to earn our keep, right? Being alive and all, it's a gift. And yeah, I think that a lot of times service is important because it helps to get us out of our own heads, because sometimes we get stuck in our own thought processes to the point where we don't really know what's really going on. We lose touch with reality. Something just flew by. And then if we take that energy and try to help someone outside of ourselves, it gets us out of our head, and it changes the energy flow, so we're not like diving into our own black hole, but we're reaching out, trying to help other people, and that helps to fill ours up, kind of thing, from the inside. Monica says that Luna, my mom, won't give up on him either, and I understand in that position. I don't know what I would do either. I hope all works out for you as well. I know it's hard. Yes, Luna says thank you. And it is. It's a very challenging thing to have happen in a family, and each case I know is a little bit different. So Vanessa V says, as far as I know, Ascension doesn't break the cycle of reincarnation. I've heard of stories of people who ascended and still reincarnated later. Well, these are words and terms. There goes another one. I think that was a crow. That are defined by us, and so depending on our definitions, we're going to read different things into that. Yeah. So if I don't respond in the definition you're thinking of, giving me more information is always a good idea. Samantha said, seeing the big black dog, I see him looking back at the situation as a guardian. Despite the roots of my home seeing black dog as evil. Yeah, I mean, it really depends, because certainly dogs can be guardians and protectors and stuff like that. Mercury Chan says, I think I would be a lot more helpful to others on the other side. No, because most people aren't going to be able to tell that you're there. You can't do as much on the other side as you might think. So work on yourself, and becoming who you're supposed to be is the best thing you can do for everyone around you, really.
Yeah, from my understanding, from what Barton says, it's also pretty easy to lose track of time and what that means to the people on Earth when you're no longer subject to that.
So Jonathan says, what a fantastic lively stream. Thank you everyone here. Siofra, Ian, how much does being clear affect our magical ability? Are we still as strong, but it's just a little dirty? No, we're definitely not as strong, because if we're not clear, then basically what we're doing is fighting ourselves and the things we don't know about who we are. And then we're making decisions based upon bad information. And if we have bad information, we can't make good decisions, which is the point of becoming clear in yourself. So you're not making a decision based on a projection that you have of someone or something else, or a projection that they have of you. It's like, how can you make a quality choice?
Yeah, and a lot of those times your motives and things are so built in that you don't even know what they're based on, or that they're actually based on anything at all. In a lot of cases, they're just so automatic. It takes a lot to get to the bottom of some of those, and I found most of them that I've gotten to the bottom of have been a hindrance rather than a help.
Yeah.
Reason for acting certain ways. But that just takes...
But it definitely doesn't mean that your magic won't work. It just means that your results may not be what you think.
Yeah, because different reasons. If you have a difference of opinion with your subconscious, for example, then you don't want to battle there. So well, it could be something else you have to deal with, what you subconsciously want versus what you consciously want.
Being practical, taking it down to the practical level. Let's say you have dreams of, about work, and you're going crazy at work and so forth, but you're determined to override those feelings, and you're going to just power on and power on and power on, and then you fall down a flight of stairs, or you trip over a rug and you fall down and you hurt yourself, or you get sick. So the universe has taken it into its hand to make you take a break, because you refuse to take a break on your own. So that's part of being clear, is being able to tell when you need to stop something, so that the universe doesn't stop it for you because you're not paying attention.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So Desiderata asked Adam, did you have any family or loved ones pass after your Hellhound sighting? Just my 2 cents. It probably depends on how it makes you feel. If a threat, maybe Siofra can suggest protections. Adam says, no, nothing like that. I asked a witch, and it said that's a sign that Hecate was watching over me, but I'm not sure how true that is. Well, that is one of the things that it can be, because certainly the black dogs are, she has 2 of them, I think, that she stands with, are some of her messengers, but it depends on the mythology that you're working with. Monica says, I saw a crow today. Yeah, I saw tons of them. They all came when I called and ate my peanuts. I think about 40 or so. It was fun. Jennifer S. says, Adam, Hecate crossed my mind when you mentioned Hellhound. Monica says, Google said change transformation. That's for Ascension, I'm assuming?
For the crow.
For the crow? Oh, for the crow. I didn't read far enough. Yeah, Google has their opinions.
Well, I like crows anyways.
But I like crows. Yeah. Michael says, thank you for your words. Well put about service to others. You're welcome. Jacqueline says, I see crows every day. Yes, and so do I. They're the most prominent bird out there. And it was interesting, like a week or so ago, one of the groups that I'm in, there was a woman, girl, I don't know what her age was, who was posting a thing about having her mother saw a raven and it looked her in the eye. And then and 2 days later, her mother saw the same raven and it looked her in the eye. And then a couple of days after that, they found the raven dead. And the way she phrased it, she says, I want to know what this means, but I know it's a bad omen. And so if you say something like that, it's sort of like an alert should go off in your head that says, I've already predetermined what this message means, so I'm not open to any other ideas. So you know me. I came along and I said, well, clearly you don't want to have any positive omen coming out of this, but what if the raven had decided to exchange its life for your mother's? And it wanted to make sure that it connected directly to your mother, so the spirit world or whoever knew why it was dying, was so that she would be safe. I mean, there's so many different ways of looking at things. We have to remember that they're just our interpretation of something, and we're sometimes wrong. So, yeah. Monica says, I love that you mentioned seeing the dog as a guardian. Lots of things resonating. Taylor says, hello, everyone. Hi, Taylor. We're almost done. If you're going to ask a question, do it quick. Michael V says, if you could paint anything, what would you paint? Oh, I don't know. Ian is painting, and he's just doing a fabulous job. So what he's painting, I think, is fantastic. I might like to paint what I can see, like Sulamith Wolfing did with the stuff that she saw and being able to put it in an image. But I don't know.
I've been painting mostly nature, which is my love at the moment. So nature scenes, shore acres out here at the coast.
So Jonathan said hi to Taylor. Monica says, I don't always see crows, and before I saw it had intentions of putting a crow pin on my jacket. After I saw the real crow, it reminded me to do it. Yeah, they're going like, hey, get some crow friend going here. Jacqueline says, if the crow is acting strongly and trying to get your attention, strange, not strong. Babo says, what's your opinion on appropriation in magic and New Age communities and how to avoid it? Get back to the basics. The earth is the magic, the source of all magic, regardless of the tradition or the mythology or anything else. If you're worried about taking over someone else's magic, go back to the basics. Go talk to a tree, talk to a rock, breathe in the air, watch the clouds, watch the stars, listen to the birds. I mean, it sometimes when people do what they call cultural misappropriation, it means that they're not respecting the culture it's coming from. They're trying to act as if they own it, and it's not theirs to own, especially if it's a closed system. And if it's a closed system, you should just leave it alone, unless you're going to go through the steps of becoming a member of the closed system. But magic is everywhere and in everything, and you really don't need to appropriate anything from anyone else to be able to do it. So that's how I would avoid it. Desiderodum says, have a good beginner question. I am perennial novice. Is it really necessary to shield energy, bubble, etc. before doing simple magic? Like if I feel pretty high vibration. I'm always shielded, so I'm always in my own energy bubble. So obviously I think so. Even ordinary day stuff like driving my car. I'm always in my bubble. And that's probably why I have a high vibration, because I'm in my own energy field and I'm constantly working on it. So Adam has a question. If I invoke the planet Venus energy, can it energetically change people's perception of me to one of more beauty and sensuality and more
associated properties of Venus? Yes, basically,
yes.
But then you have to watch out because you're doing what's called a glamour.
That's the word.
There can be unexpected consequences of that also.
Put it this way. If you manage to succeed in doing that and giving yourself a love glamour and make yourself look more attractive to other people, can you maintain it? If you can't maintain it, it's a lie. And eventually it will fade, and the person you attract will find out that you lied to them right at the beginning about who you were, because you put on airs in this sense, literally, by pretending to be someone you're not. So if what you're looking for is a healthy relationship with someone else, becoming yourself is the only way to do it, and being yourself is the only way to do it. Because that's one of the things when Ian and I first got together, neither one of us played games, neither one of us wanted to play games, neither one of us would let the other one play games. Ian was very determined to be himself no matter what, because if I wanted to be with him, he wanted it to be real. And that's one of the reasons we're together 30 years later. So it's up to you. It can be a fun experiment. Luna says, Ian, your painting is amazing. Yes, it is. I love his painting. Jacqueline says, will you be selling your paintings on Etsy? Okay, here's our plan. Shay, who actually ran a gallery for a while, she said what they do nowadays, instead of selling the original, because you have to get so much out of the original to make it worth your while, they're taking a really super high definition of the painting so that it's an exact reproduction of it. And then there's a company on the line that will print up the print, and then you can buy the painting that way. And then
printed on canvas.
And then we still have the original. And so she's helping us with that. In a little bit, it'll probably be a few months. We're going to find someone with the right type of camera, the right format. She's going to let us know what that is. And then we're going to send her the memory card, and then she's going to format it on her computer because she still has the software she used at the gallery. And then we can contact one of the companies on the internet that does that, and then we'll let you know. And then you can buy a print. And it won't be as expensive, one hopes. So yeah. So Allison says, what have you found to be the best online resources for witchcraft, books, herbalism, etc.? Oh, I really haven't. I mean, books and Wikipedia and other people. Since I'm past the learning stage, I'm not looking for sources. Vanessa V says, oh, really? I didn't know about Hecate. Find it curious. A woman asked me once if I knew there were 2 big black dogs with me. Haha, that's interesting. I know, it's getting to be time. She said they told her they were my guards, but I've never seen them. It's kind of fun when other people see things you can't, and then you think maybe they were right. Violet says, you are so refreshingly grounded, and you have such good, wholesome information. You are such a good teacher. So good, you and Ian. Thank you. So people have noticed we're on a 1.5 hour mark. Jonathan says, good night, everyone. Remember to put book suggestions in the comment sections of Siofra's book video this week. I want to be the first to suggest Barton, who didn't make the cut for Siofra's video. That's because I was talking about books I read when I was young. Older books. Desert Autumn says, Ian, I would love to see you paint portraits of nature spirits and nature people someday.
I probably will.
That might be coming up. Violet says, thank you, thank you, thank you. Charity says, thank you for your videos. I've been focusing on being emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically disciplined, free, happy, safe, comfortable, and stable. Good. That sounds like a lot, but yay. All right, so I guess we're going to have to go now because we're 1 hour and 32 minutes in. So any other questions, save them for next week. And when we come back, you can ask them then, or you can send me an email at chiefersmagicalcove@gmail.com. So bye, everybody. Thank you for the wonderful participation. I'm thoroughly enjoying our shows.
Me too. Blessed be.